The Bian and Coabeba first,
About
but
7 o'clock,
she
I'm 5.
answer.
Missy, my bro, if I could sit here and watch what is going on, I'll be happy.
Okay, you'll be happy.
So,
My brepa.
so how are we going to take the review?
I'm Balianka.
Are you picking this one? Oh, it's not bad. Okay, it's good. Yes, we need comments, we need suggestions. They will say it. So you come.
Margaret, me pancho won't actually mean I may guest to add the program. Meta be good. How much more of a new go ordered out? Bye. You, thank you.
With the growing challenges of life in light of both global and domestic development, the Christian is faced with the difficult task of balancing survival within a secular system and at the same time living a Christian life that pleases their Maker. It is for this reason that we need to have frank conversations on the many issues of life through the Christian lens. So, we bring to you Let's Talk About. On Let's Talk About, we talk about health, career, dating, marriage, family, divorce, politics, finance, and all the issues of life that the Christian is confronted with on a daily basis. Join us this and every Wednesday on the YouTube and Facebook pages of Trinity United Church Legon, and let's talk about life as Christians.
Hello and welcome to Let's Talk About, a program put together by the Trinity United Church Legon on YouTube, that is, to discuss issues that border on our lifestyles. And tonight, our first program for the year 2022, we want to just look back at some of the things that we discussed last year, 2021. And with me to review some of the things that we talked about last year are Mrs. Joyce Chumasidu and Brother Adukwe Abrahams. You are heartily welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I think this is how we'll go about it. Joyce, if you can just remember some of the topics that we talked about. Maybe you can just tell us some of the things that you learned from them. So we'll start with you, Joyce.
Okay. We started the year with emotional well-being. Okay. I remember that we talked about how good your emotions should be because it translates to your physical health. I learned a lot from that program because then I learned that I need to manage my stress. When I manage my stress, invariably my health is likely to be good because stress is one of the factors that, especially in our age where we are perhaps the height of our career, you are a family person, your children are growing up, school fees is demanding your finances, you are building your house, you want to rise up on the corporate ladder. All these things seem to take your attention and each one is taking a bit of you. So if you don't manage and place a balance, then you get so stressed. And then when you get stressed, it's likely to affect your health and all. Then we also spoke about tech addiction. It looks like this generation, I mean our times, tech is everything. We go everywhere with
and
our
by tech,
mobile phone.
you mean technology? Okay.
Yes. We go everywhere with our mobile phones and we are always WhatsApping, we are on Facebook. We no longer seem to hold conversations and have face-to-face interactions. We prefer doing WhatsApp. We don't even want calls. We would rather be on a phone. We're always on the internet. So we are getting more and more addicted. And the more we get addicted to technology, it looks like the less social beings we become. And that is affecting our psychological health being as well. And so for me, what I learned in that particular program was that I should be able to find a balance and still maintain myself as a social being and try to decrease my concentration, especially on my phone. After that program, I realized that I'm a WhatsApp addict.
Oh, really?
So I decided that, look, I would set times and not be so addicted to my phone. So those are the two major topics that really had an impact on me last year.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Joyce Chumasidu. And Adukwe Abrahams, can you remember some of the things that we talked about last year, the topics that we treated?
Yeah,
and what struck you most importantly, significantly? Can you remember some of them?
So we also touched on the family work and family balance, on the back of the stress-related issue that we talked about, that just mentioned, the emotional balance thing. In that same light. We also looked at the gender-based violence. All these topics were handled sometime in September. Then in November, we touched on the essentials of personal safety, looking at security. We did that on two sessions. And my resource person helped us quite a lot because then he was drawing our attention to a few of the things that we might not be taking notice of whilst probably we are driving home, how loosely we play whilst we are in town walking about, and kind of conscientize us a bit more to be more security conscious as we walk about or drive around in town.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that was very important to me. I particularly remember the guest speaker that we brought in, and he was so efficient. And later on, one woman that I met after the program said, oh, she particularly liked that one, the essentials of personal security. Yeah. She said some of the things that, it was Mrs. Nettie. Okay. She loved it very much. She loved it so much. She said particularly when it was mentioned that you go one way and you do not come back the same way, which was practically a security thing measure to do. Not always going the same way and coming back the same way. Sometimes you change a little.
You would remember that the resource person for that event mentioned, even in group settings like in church, how you look out for strangers who come in. I think a week or two after, there was somebody who was spotted in the church, and church members had become a bit security conscious. So I remember somebody prompting me that they had seen a gentleman walking about in church with a bag at his back, and actually drew my attention. So I actually had to go look for the person and have a conversation with the person. He was not harmful though, but at least, that attention was made. It was something significant that people actually got it made a certain impact on people. Yep.
Yes. And a week afterwards, the guest speaker happened to have met a lady who comes to church here, who had complained that her granddaughter was missing. And then the guest speaker went about so frantically helping to look out for the child, not knowing the child had gone inside Reverend Dr. Martin Oben's house. So finally they got him. But he said that out of the program that we did, he thought it was something to practicalize what we had discussed, And I think that was very. But how about the Christian and insurance?
Yeah, that program was a very wide. To plan for the future. Nobody has promised something, so having a life policy, having an funeral policy, and that funeral policy is actually a very good one, and because sometimes death doesn't, visibility is on you as the child, the children, to see, and you'd want it, and a good one. It goes along on your house, your home insurance. Even if it doesn't cover the entire cost of the distance, to have insurance policies against a rain.
Because they believe when they take a funeral policy, for instance, it means that you are anticipating that we discuss that issue. Yeah. So we all prepare. You never
grow up, you die. And unfortunately, we are not God. And then there's so much stress on your family. So if you have a life insurance, making sure that your back is covered.
Thank you so much. Discuss worship. Yeah. And that was with Reverend brought in the music. Listening and watching.
So, you just mentioned that I love music. How we even reference the eye opener was that the whole service you have is worship, where you are doing adoration, but we are singing something that doesn't have, you are doing the confession, or vice versa, that kind of thing. And where is the scriptural basis? Let it reflect on the issues you want to pray about, the issues for reasons for which is, and
Henry Botry.
The two Henry Botry, and then the songs you will sing from time to time. Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember him in Drew so much that sometimes we forget his real name. And he did emphasize, because I asked him a question, what is it that
With the growing challenges of life in light of both global and domestic development, the Christian is faced with the difficult task of balancing survival within a secular system and at the same time living a Christian life that pleases their Maker. It is for this reason that we need to have frank conversations on the many issues of life through the Christian lens. So, we bring to you Let's Talk About. On Let's Talk About, we talk about health, career, dating, marriage, family, divorce, politics, finance, and all the issues of life that the Christian is confronted with on a daily basis. Join us this and every Wednesday on the YouTube and Facebook pages of Trinity United Church Legon, and let's talk about life as Christians. With the growing challenges of life in light of both global and domestic development, the Christian is faced with the difficult task of balancing survival within a secular system and at the same time living a Christian life that pleases their Maker. It is for this reason that we need to have frank conversations on the many issues of life through the Christian lens. So, we bring to you Let's Talk About. On Let's Talk About, we talk about health, career, dating, marriage, family, divorce, politics, finance, and all the issues of life that the Christian is confronted with on a daily basis. Join us this and every Wednesday on the YouTube and Facebook pages of Trinity United Church Legon, and let's talk about life as Christians. With the growing challenges of life in light of both global and domestic development, the Christian is faced with the difficult task of balancing survival within a secular system and at the same time living a Christian life that pleases their Maker. It is for this reason that we need to have frank conversations on the many issues of life through the Christian lens. So, we bring to you Let's Talk About. On Let's Talk About, we talk about health, career, dating, marriage, family, divorce, politics, finance, and all the issues of life that the Christian is confronted with on a daily basis. Join us this and every Wednesday on the YouTube and Facebook pages of Trinity United Church Legon, and let's talk about life as Christians. With the growing challenges of life in light of both global and domestic development, the Christian is faced with the difficult task of balancing survival within a secular system and at the same time living a Christian life that pleases their Maker. It is for this reason that we need to have frank conversations on the many issues of life through the Christian lens. So, we bring to you Let's Talk About. On Let's Talk About, we talk about health, career, dating, marriage, family, divorce, politics, finance, and all the issues of life that the Christian is confronted with on a daily basis. Join us this and every Wednesday on the YouTube and Facebook pages of Trinity United Church Legon, and let's talk about life as Christians. With the growing challenges of life in light of both global and domestic development, the Christian is faced with the difficult task of balancing survival within a secular system and at the same time living a Christian life that pleases their Maker. It is for this reason that we need to have frank conversations on the many issues of life through the Christian lens. So, we bring to you Let's Talk About. On Let's Talk About, we talk about health, career, dating, marriage, family, divorce, politics, finance, and all the issues of life that the Christian is confronted with on a daily basis. Join us this and every Wednesday on the YouTube and Facebook pages of Trinity United Church Legon, and let's talk about life as Christians. With the growing challenges of life in light of both global and domestic development, the Christian is faced with the difficult task of balancing survival within a secular system and at the same time living a Christian life that pleases their Maker. It is for this reason that we need to have frank conversations on the many issues of life through the Christian lens. So, we bring to you Let's Talk About. On Let's Talk About, we talk about health, career, dating, marriage, family, divorce, politics, finance, and all the issues of life that the Christian is confronted with on a daily basis. Join us this and every Wednesday on the YouTube and Facebook pages of Trinity United Church Legon, and let's talk about life as Christians. With the growing challenges of life in light of both global and domestic development, the Christian is faced with the difficult task of balancing survival within a secular system and at the same time living a Christian life that pleases their Maker. It is for this reason that we need to have frank conversations on the many issues of life through the Christian lens. So, we bring to you Let's Talk About. On Let's Talk About, we talk about health, career, dating, marriage, family, divorce, politics, finance, and all the issues of life that the Christian is confronted with on a daily basis. Join us this and every Wednesday on the YouTube and Facebook pages of Trinity United Church Legon, and let's talk about life as Christians. With the growing challenges of life in light of both global and domestic development, the Christian is faced with the difficult task of balancing survival within a secular system and at the same time living a Christian life that pleases their Maker. It is for this reason that we need to have frank conversations on the many issues of life through the Christian lens. So, we bring to you Let's Talk About. On Let's Talk About, we talk about health, career, dating, marriage, family, divorce, politics, finance, and all the issues of life that the Christian is confronted with on a daily basis. Join us this and every Wednesday on the YouTube and Facebook pages of Trinity United Church Legon, and let's talk about life as Christians. With the growing challenges of life in light of both global and domestic development, the Christian is faced with the difficult task of balancing survival within a secular system and at the same time living a Christian life that pleases their Maker. It is for this reason that we need to have frank conversations on the many issues of life through the Christian lens. So, we bring to you Let's Talk About. On Let's Talk About, we talk about health, career, dating, marriage, family, divorce, politics, finance, and all the issues of life that the Christian is confronted with on a daily basis. Join us this and every Wednesday on the YouTube and Facebook pages of Trinity United Church Legon, and let's talk about life as Christians. With the growing challenges of life in light of both global and domestic development, the Christian is faced with the difficult task of balancing survival within a secular system and at the same time living a Christian life that pleases their Maker. It is for this reason that we need to have frank conversations on the many issues of life through the Christian lens. So, we bring to you Let's Talk About. On Let's Talk About, we talk about health, career, dating, marriage, family, divorce, politics, finance, and all the issues of life that the Christian is confronted with on a daily basis. Join us this and every Wednesday on the YouTube and Facebook pages of Trinity United Church Legon, and let's talk about life as Christians. With the growing challenges of life in light of both global and domestic development, the Christian is faced with the difficult task of balancing survival within a secular system and at the same time living a Christian life that pleases their Maker. It is for this reason that we need to have frank conversations on the many issues of life through the Christian lens. So, we bring to you Let's Talk About. On Let's Talk About, we talk about health, career, dating, marriage, family, divorce, politics, finance, and all the issues of life that the Christian is confronted with on a daily basis. Join us this and every Wednesday on the YouTube and Facebook pages of Trinity United Church Legon, and let's talk about life as Christians. With the growing challenges of life in light of both global and domestic development, the Christian is faced with the difficult task of balancing survival within a secular system and at the same time living a Christian life that pleases their Maker. It is for this reason that we need to have frank conversations on the many issues of life through the Christian lens. So, we bring to you Let's Talk About. On Let's Talk About, we talk about health, career, dating, marriage, family, divorce, politics, finance, and all the issues of life that the Christian is confronted with on a daily basis. Join us this and every Wednesday on the YouTube and Facebook pages of Trinity United Church Legon, and let's talk about life as Christians. With the growing challenges of life in light of both global and domestic development, the Christian is faced with the difficult task of balancing survival within a secular system and at the same time living a Christian life that pleases their Maker. It is for this reason that we need to have frank conversations on the many issues of life through the Christian lens. So, we bring to you Let's Talk About. On Let's Talk About, we talk about health, career, dating, marriage, family, divorce, politics, finance, and all the issues of life that the Christian is confronted with on a daily basis. Join us this and every Wednesday on the YouTube and Facebook pages of Trinity United Church Legon, and let's talk about life as Christians.
Oh, hello, you're welcome back to Let's Talk About, a program put together by Trinity United Church Legon on YouTube. We are very sorry for the break in transmission. We had some technical issues, but we thank God we are back. So as I was saying, when we treated worship, one thing that Reverend Dr. Martin, the minister in charge of Trinity United Church Legon, had to teach us was this, that worship in totality is about showing reverence and respect to God. Whether we are in the market, whether we are at home, whether we are at work, or whether we are in church. So when we come to church, it's a formal worship time. And the kind of songs that we sing could either be praise, which is thanking God for the goodness that he has bestowed upon us. And then we also come to adoration. So we should not confuse adoration with the general worship that we show reverence to God. And I did understand that one clearly. Now, Adukwe, there was a program that we did with one reverend minister, Reverend Mbila. Yes, Reverend Mbila. And that was, I've forgotten the top.
Interfaith.
Yeah, interfaith.
Yes.
That man is well resourced.
Oh, wow.
Are there some things that you remember so well that he said?
So, we had engaged him on two occasions actually. One was in church, and then the other one was on the Let's Talk About on the Wednesday evening like this.
Let's emphasize the one on the talk
Sure.
about.
And essentially what we were talking about was how Christians would relate, because we live in a world setting.
Yeah.
There are all kinds of people surround us. Within our communities, we live with people who are not necessarily Christians. And so essentially what we were trying to do was to try to throw light on other religions, what their religions mean to them, and how we could relate with them peaceably on this earth.
Yeah.
Essentially. Yeah.
I remember when we were children, we used to live in a town called Adesu, 10 miles from his home. And there was the Zongo area, predominantly Muslim. But we didn't have anything to do with the Muslim. But I read that in the town, people move freely with whether you are a Muslim, whether you are what, of what religion, and all that. So later on in life, when I heard issues about some fracas happening between Christians and Muslims, I became a little bit sad.
Yes.
Because that was not what was happening way back, But Reverend Mbila, Johnson Mbila, coming in to remind us that we need to live peaceably with all people, I think was very, very, very good thing to learn about.
Yes.
Joyce, what do you think?
I think so too. That was a very engaging session. That man is full of wisdom and he really understands the topic interfaith. And so I think he touched on Muslims, he touched on Hinduism. Yeah. He seems to know
Rastafarianism.
about Rastafarianism, yes. But at the end of it all, he concluded that, look, you believe in this.
Yes.
I believe in this. We don't have to be enemies. We can coexist. Thank God that in Ghana, we have different religions. And I mean, your next door neighbor can be of a totally different religion from him. And it's not really an issue. Okay, there are other countries where you cannot show your faith because the country is believed to be predominantly of this faith, and the country has declared a particular faith. So if you're of another faith, you seem to be in hiding. But we don't need to hide. For the sake of peace, believe in what you are believing in. If you get to believe in mine, thank God. I don't have to be your enemy because I believe in something else and you also believe in something else. And that was a good one.
Thank you so much. And prior to Christmas, Reverend Martin Obing, Dr. Martin Obing, was back again on the screens and talking about our preparation towards Christmas. Aduko, did you pick anything rather very good from that discussion?
The significance of Christ's birth and how the birth had been foretold.
Yeah.
And then the reason, like we always say, the reason for the season. You know, we do all kinds of things around Christmas, but the emphasis is that, the birth of the Messiah comes at a certain time, and we should look at him as the Messiah and focus our attention to be on that, on the fact that Christ is coming as the Messiah, and leave the tangentials, the enjoyment and the fun around Christmas. Let us focus on Christ being the Messiah, and that is where the lesson that I drew from that segment.
And Joyce, I hope you remember that Reverend Dr. Martin Obing talked about the quest of the Israelis or Jews for a great leader.
Yes.
Maybe to come and save them from the enslavement or domination of their enemies.
Yeah.
And one thing that he said was about the books in between the Old Testament and the New Testament, called apocryphal books.
Apocrypha, yeah.
I used to think that those books were not good books at all to read as part of the Bible. Do you know some of the things, or do you remember some of the things he shared about those apocryphal books?
Okay. I remember that he said, well, between the Old Testament and the New Testament, it was so many years, hundreds of years, okay? It wasn't, when you read the Bible and you don't have in-depth knowledge, you don't understand that there was a big gap. So during that time, there were writings going on, okay? He didn't say that they were necessarily bad, but sometimes these books actually give you a background to some of the lessons that we learned in both the Old and New Testament. Yeah. So he didn't declare them as evil as we used to think they were, but he rather made us know that some of these writings actually gave us the background to some of the occurrences and some of the writings in both the Old and New Testament.
Thank you so much. Do you remember his talk about the Maccabees? Yeah. As the time between the Old and the New Testament. Yeah. And so these Maccabees staged a revolt. They wanted to play a kind of intermediary role as leaders of the nation of Israel. Because then they hadn't had any leader for a long time.
All the prophets had
So
died.
if you don't remember anything about the Maccabees, you can talk about some things that you remember.
No, so I was going to add that. So essentially, what Reverend Dr. Obing did in that session was to give us a certain perspective, a historical background of how the Messiah was expected, the way his birth came in, and then his birth itself and what it means to us. And that was why I was talking about the fact that the focus of Christmas should be on the Messiah and the saving grace that he gives us as Christians. But he gave us a certain historical perspective that throws light on where the Israelites had come from. So you were mentioning where they were looking forward to a certain Messiah, and whether the Messiah that had come was who they were looking forward to, and then the role that Christ himself played around the time.
And then now let's talk about the season itself, the season of Christmas. And it was still with Reverend Dr. Martin Obing. What did he say the season itself is supposed to be?
Well, so the season is, the reason for the season is Christ. Okay, and Christ is the Messiah. And so during Christmas, years after the festivities and all, sometimes we lose focus. We tend to see Christmas. I remember when we were young, you're looking forward to your mother buying you a new dress, your new pair of shoes, and you're going to have Fanta, you're going to have chicken, and it is likely that during the year you didn't eat chicken, but this one you are actually going to be given, you could, if you're lucky, you could get a tie. And that was a big, so it was something to look forward to. Now we are eating jollof on a daily basis. We are getting clothes, shoes on a daily basis. However, there's still that euphoria around Christmas. Even non-Christians celebrate Christmas, look forward to the end of December, where we are going to have all those festivities. The lights go up, the Christmas trees go up, and it makes, there's excitement in the air. But he admonished us that as we go through this excitement of shopping, and in these days of terrible traffic in Accra, we should remember that there is a reason for this season. There's a reason why we've gotten to the end of the year and we are all excited. And that reason is Christ. And so as Christians, we must hammer the point home to others that in all this, we are doing all this because we are celebrating the birth of Jesus Christ. And who is this Jesus Christ? So Christmas is actually a time where evangelism should rise. Okay, if you haven't said anything to anyone the whole year about Jesus, at least let us use the spirit of Christmas to tell others about the reason for the season, who is Jesus.
Do you think that as Christians we pursue this ideal of evangelism during Christmas?
We don't really, because we all get caught up
In the fun.
in the excitement and all. But we should. We should. So he conscientized us that we should tell people that we are doing all this because of Jesus Christ. And then tell people who Jesus Christ is, that he really is the reason for the season.
But during Christmas, we exchange gifts and presents with people. Is that not also a bit of a point about evangelism, telling them about the love of Jesus?
Yeah, so you're right. So, but sometimes the question to ask is that what is the essence of the gift in itself? So the Christmas, part of the Christmas story comes with exchange of gifts. Now, as you exchange the gift, what exactly message are you actually conveying? Do you just go and give gifts? And remember that Christmas is also towards the end of the year. People also give gifts to persons towards the end of the year. So it's like end of year, people just like offices or corporate organization will pass gifts. So sometimes all of that, it leads to a certain loss of essence for the season, because the exchange of gifts has become part and parcel of the last 10 or 15 days of December towards the early part of the new year. So it may lose its essence if we ourselves don't throw a certain light and focus on the reason for the season itself.
Yeah.
But we also had one topic, Christmas in COVID times. I didn't listen to that one, so I don't know what really transpired. Did any of you listen?
Yeah.
Yes, I do.
What was some of the points raised?
Well, so we are aware that this is 2022, right? So COVID came in 2019 December, somewhere in China, Wuhan, we hear. And then 2020, we lived with it. We thought it would go away. Unfortunately, we lived with the whole of 2021. So it had affected our Christmas somewhat in 2020 and then 2021. Now, the history of this country or around the world will tell you that in 2020 December, the number of infections went up. And it's understandable. We just mentioned that Christmas comes with all kinds of fun. So there are large gatherings, and people would go, and now we call them super spreader events. So there are large events. People will go to the beach, people will go to the pubs. There are churches who hold functions outside. There are large gatherings, essentially. People are amongst the social distancing that we talk about would be missing. Social or physical distancing will be missing, essentially. Unfortunately, towards the end of the year 2022, the Omicron variant, which happens to spread a bit more faster than the previous variants that we've known of the COVID, had also set in, I think towards the latter part of November or early December. And so so what was going to happen was this: are we going to celebrate Christmas at all, or you're going to go indoors and, as it were, isolate because you're going to protect yourself from COVID? That was the essence of the discussion, that we could still go ahead and celebrate Christmas, but also be mindful of the fact that we're living with a virus that we needed to protect ourselves from.
Thank you so much. You're still listening to Let's Talk About, a program put together by Trinity United Church Legon on YouTube to discuss issues that border on our lifestyles. We've done enough of the discussion and review, but this is the time for you to send in your questions, or I think particularly you could send in your comments. not questions, comments. You could also help us to remind us about some of the things that we talked about last year. And the WhatsApp number to do that is 0501579996. Again, 0501579996. So whilst we wait for your comments, yes, Joyce, you have a point somewhere to tell us something about.
Okay, on the COVID.
Yes, on the COVID.
Well,
yes.
what our health professionals warned us about, we actually saw it materializing because a lot of people got the COVID during the Christmas season. I think that because Christmas is so, as our brother Niadukwe said, because of the festivities and all, you attend parties. And when you attend parties, of course, you can't keep your mask on and be drinking and eating. So you are bound to take off your mask. And then you probably had not seen people the whole year. You are tempted to hug. Okay, and because you are excited, you tend to lose your guard and let it down. And so we saw a number of people having contracted the Omicron. But thankfully, because it's not a deadly one, and then also because a lot more people had vaccinated, the effect was not as deadly as it was when the virus started and we had a Delta variant. And so we thank God that a lot of people, although they contracted it, they still came out of the COVID and they are out of isolation. COVID is still with us and we are still being entreated to observe the protocols and not lose our guard.
So we still are looking at some of the points that we looked at last year, and reviewing some of the critical issues that came up to remind us to keep in touch with what we do here on Let's Talk About. It's very important. But just to sidetrack a little, I think we must pay glowing tributes to the people we invited to do the to speak with us. Yeah. And I think it's very important. What do you think?
Yes, we thank them, honestly, because you can't just come and speak. We are virtually speaking to the whole world. Once you are on YouTube, you are on Facebook, you are speaking to the whole world. And most of in fact, all our guests actually prepared, and they were very resourceful and gave a lot of insights on all the topics that we discussed. And so I want to say thank you, special thank you to all the guests that we had during the programs. Yeah.
Yes, and particularly I remember Lily Pobi.
Yes.
Her other name is Mitri. I just got to know that lately. Yes, very good. And so for those who missed all that we have discussed, they can go back and look at some of the topics.
There's a comment by Reverend Martin Obing.
Okay.
Reverend Martin Obing says, our guests are excellent students. Osofu says he's giving us an A because we seem to remember all that he said. And he's saying that our host, Ben, is doing a great job.
Thank you very much, Osofu.
Thank you, Osofu.
Thank you so much. Yes. So, whilst we wait for comments from our
listeners,
yes,
viewers,
from our viewers, let's just go through. You have the topics for this year.
Yeah, for this year.
If you can just pick on a few, and so people will make up their minds or prepare their minds as to what we should be doing.
So this year, from the 19th of January, we will look at 3 sessions running from the 19th, 19th, 26th, and the 2nd of February. We will touch on prospering in health, wealth, and spirit. Essentially, what we want to do is that we want to look at healthy living, and also how we live as spiritual beings, how we live our lives to the glory of God, essentially, and then how we also make wealth. You know, the word of business sometimes is more like you cannot make wealth in this world unless you lead a crooked life. So one, how do you live how do you maintain your health? And you need your health to be able to actually serve your God. You cannot just go on serving God and leave your health. I mean, you need to be alive to serve the God that you say you serve. And then how do you make wealth? And you remember, the church also needs funds to run, right? So you need also to make the money to be able to run some activities for the church. So how do we live as spiritual beings, serving our God? How do we live our lives healthily? And how do you also make wealth within the world? So essentially, looking at health, economics, generating funds, generating money, generating income, and then also living, helping the church.
So as it were, we're looking at the balance in your life,
Yeah.
from church to wherever we are, in the workplace and all. But Josh, you might have to also tell us what to expect, some of the topics to expect this year, 2022, on Let's Talk About.
Yes. We should also expect, we are going to treat a topic on, is marriage for everyone? Is marriage for everyone? Is there a biblical basis to, is it everybody who must get married? Is there any biblical basis? So and then if you are not married, making single life purposeful, okay? The fact that you are not married, is it a negative to you in any way? Okay, if it's not, we'll look at it. And then we'd also look at dating and choosing the right partner. And I expect a lot of our youth to be tuned in for that particular session, because it's critical that you get to understand some of the life principles on how to choose a correct partner for you. Because as Christians, we believe that marriage is supposed to be forever, till death do you part. And that's actually what we promise as part of the solemn vow you'd say to your spouse during the ceremony, the wedding ceremony. But the question is, how do you get to that point? And so that's one in particular. I'm expecting that we'll have a lot of our youth and our married brothers and sisters tuning in. And then around Valentine, we are going to discuss...
That's in February?
In February, yes. In February, we are going to discuss what's love got to do with it. That also promises to be a very engaging and enlightening
that's a song,
session.
Tina Turner's song. What's love got to do with it? Anyway, that's a sidetrack thing, though.
Okay. So, yes, what's love got to do with it? We'll discuss that around Valentine time. It promised to be very interesting. And then we'd also have a session on pre-marital counseling. Is it important at all? The wedding versus the marriage. Okay, that includes both the traditional and the church weddings. Are the ceremonies important? What are the significance?
Joyce, sorry for the interruption, but we seem to talk more about pre-marital counseling and don't talk about post-marital counseling at all. That's what it seems to me we don't do.
You're right. We don't do a lot of that because normally what we expect people to do, or what we have expected people to do, is that once they get into marriage, they are able to rate appropriately. If they have issues, because they are adults, whatever, they are able to handle the issues, or they are able to take the steps to be able to see their counselors and deal with it. Unfortunately, this is not happening, and so it's not surprising that you hear that divorce is on the rise somewhat. So it looks like something that we need to look at critically. That when we prepare people for marriage, we also help to keep them in the marriage.
Yeah.
And Joyce, there's a topic also that I'm seeing that which will come up this year, 2022. What's in a name?
What's in a name?
Yes, choosing names for our children.
Yes.
Because I don't believe, well, a few people I've come across have chosen names like Judas for their children. But we know Judas and the kind of things that he did to Jesus. So that's a topic that's also coming up.
Yes,
we
but even
before
then, we, as part of the marriage series, we are going to treat sex, the role of sex in marriage. Okay. And then childlessness. Is it a bane or a blessing? Yes. Is it a bane if you don't have a child, or it could actually be a blessing if you don't have a child? Those two topics are also very critical in our marriage series, and we'll treat them on different sessions.
Yes, it's very important. So these are some of the topics that we'll be looking at in 2022, but I'm very much interested in what's in a name, all right? And then there are topics like raising children with special needs, and in-laws and stepchildren, and then will come, when is Easter? March or April?
This year is
I think it's early April, sort of.
Okay.
Yes.
And that's when we'll talk about
it's
Easter
rather
reflection.
late April.
Late
Yes.
April. Okay, late
Oh, all right. And how we relate with children and adults dealing with infidelity in marriage. And then the reality of divorce. Joyce will talk a little about that. And then managing finances in marriage, adequately.
Yeah.
We think it's very important.
It is. In fact, sometimes, remember we mentioned a few minutes ago that divorce is on the rise, and we said managing divorce, or reality of divorce in marriage. Sometimes the problem is with the finance. In our setting as Ghanaians, we have known the men to be the breadwinners of the family. But today's society doesn't necessarily make the man the breadwinner. You have a situation where the woman in the home sometimes earns more than the woman,
Than the
and
man.
sometimes than the man, and sometimes it creates a bit of tension. So you are expecting the man who is earning little to still win the bread, essentially. But the woman is also earning more, so as the woman becomes the breadwinner in the home, sometimes there's a bit of tension in how to handle the funds. And we also know how our social setting is. You have family, extended family. So I need to go and support my family back home. She, as my wife, needs to go and support the family back home. And sometimes how you take the money out of the nuclear family to the other side becomes a bit of a problem. You meet a friend somewhere who needs a bit of help, you part with 100 cedis, 200 cedis, and your spouse is not too happy about it. So those things create problems in the home. It's important that we learn how to manage our finances in the house. So when you mentioned about counseling or post-marital counseling,
Post-marital counseling.
these things are part of the things we need to do. So you can see the topics clearly that even there, we've started touching on the post-marital issues already.
And somebody has said, Joyce, and that, that marriage is the only thing after the ceremony you are giving a certificate. The only institution. You haven't finished the course.
No, you actually you are giving the certificate before you start the course.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
You see, so if you want to bring great meaning to marriage, I think post-marriage counseling should also play a very important role. And then we were talking about the challenges of aging. Now, in men, women, Christian and party politics. You know, somebody wants to join GNTC party, WDA party, S party or Y party. What are some of the things that go into deciding? Some say if you ever went into party political life, if you go and join them, you'll be like them. All of them are liars. They are not truthful and all that. So we look at all those issues. And then Christianity and chieftaincy, death and funerals, and a host of other topics. So today we realize that because you are doing reviewing, the comments are not coming. People are listening and wanting to know what is coming up in 2022. But all too soon, our time.
I mean, people should be able to suggest topics, right? Yes. And we are encouraging people to bring your topics. I mean, the fact that we have enumerated these topics that are coming up doesn't necessarily mean that if you have some topics of choice, we won't consider it and have resource persons too. So we encourage our listeners, other people, come on board. You have the Facebook page, the YouTube, the WhatsApp line.
So we could just write them onto the WhatsApp line, 0501 5799996,
and send it.
And put your topic.
And topic there.
Interesting, some of the topics that we are going to consider in the course of the year are actually suggestions that have come from the...
Oh, really?
Yes.
Yeah.
Whilst we
That's very encouraging. And please, just before we round up, I don't think it would be right not to also compliment the technical team who have done a yeoman's job. Not only a yeoman's job, there are some ladies in there.
Yeah, so yeoman's
yeoman's job. We cannot afford to mention all the names.
They are wonderful,
You know,
honestly.
it'd be so wonderful.
Honestly. The commitment level.
Yes, the commitment, you see, every Wednesday. Some of them come here as early as 3 p.m., 4 p.m.
Just to set up. Yeah.
So we are so very thankful to the church members, non-church members, those who brought in questions, comments, all of them.
Yes.
There's one lady called Felicity Tremanting. I had never known that she was the one till I met her in church.
Oh, okay.
Her daughter is in the youth choir.
I see.
Sylvia Tete. That's her
Right.
mother's name.
Okay.
So and this woman would keep putting in questions, sometimes comments,
yeah.
and it was very encouraging. Auntie Felicity, thank you so much.
Thank
and all others who has made Let's Talk About what it is till today. From next week, we'll be continuing with other topics, as we have mentioned. And we do thank you so much for your cooperation and for your love and prayer for what God has been doing through this way. I need to mention that the name Let's Talk About, which is on this program, came from Benjamin Yao of Fair Ado. He's so resourceful. And you do not see him these days because he's at school. He's writing his exams and so many other things. When he's done with all that,
He'll join us.
he'll be back.
join us.
So thank you so much for watching. This has been Let's Talk About, a platform of discussion of issues that bother all of us on YouTube. And the link always has been Trinity United Church, Legon. Once again, thank you and have a good night. Bye.
With the growing challenges of life in light of both global and domestic development, the Christian is faced with the difficult task of balancing survival within a secular system and at the same time living a Christian life that pleases their Maker. It is for this reason that we need to have frank conversations on the many issues of life through the Christian lens. So, we bring to you Let's Talk About. On Let's Talk About, we talk about health, career, dating, marriage, family, divorce, politics, finance, and all the issues of life that the Christian is confronted with on a daily basis. Join us this and every Wednesday on the YouTube and Facebook pages of Trinity United Church Legon, and let's talk about life as Christians.